The most dangerous opponent left in this World Cup isn't wearing a jersey. It can't be marked, it can't be subbed, it can't be booked, and right now it is quietly beating FIFA about as badly as anyone has beaten anyone all tournament. It isn't France's midfield, it isn't Spain's press, it isn't whatever unholy thing Norway keeps doing to teams that are supposed to be better than them. The most dangerous opponent left in the 2026 World Cup is a single, corrosive, four-word thought that has now lodged itself in the skull of nearly every neutral fan on the planet. Wait a second, again? And that thought has a name now. Across the internet, it's become a full-blown theory that FIFA is fixing this World Cup to keep Argentina and Lionel Messi alive as long as possible. And today I've got new information to share with you guys, because once you start connecting the dots, it's honestly kind of insane. Now, let's start where the fever finally broke. Atlanta, round of 16. Argentina against Egypt. A match Egypt was winning 2-0, and deep into the second half looked entirely comfortable winning, right up until it didn't. 3 goals in the closing stretch, the last of them, a stoppage-time Enzo Fernandez strike, and the defending champions escaped a game they had no business escaping. Great drama. Elite comeback. Except that isn't what the internet spent the next 72 hours talking about. What the internet talked about was a disallowed Egyptian goal. Mustafa Zico put the ball in the net, and it came off the board after a video assistant referee review found a foul somewhere back in the build-up. Then Egypt went down looking for a late penalty when Hamdi Fathi hit the deck, and the whistle stayed silent. And moments later, Argentina scored the winner. Egypt's coach Hossam Hassan came out afterward and said his team suffered an unjust defeat, and pointedly suggested that marketing support had helped keep Argentina and Messi in the tournament. Captain Mohamed Salah questioned the officiating. The Egyptian Football Association filed a formal complaint demanding referees be excluded from the competition. And then, because 2026 is a deeply strange year, the mayor of New York City stood up at a public transit event, was talking about faster buses giving people more time with friends, and casually landed the line, "Egypt was robbed yesterday," to a room full of applause. When your officiating controversy has jumped from the touchline to the podium of a municipal bus announcement, you have lost control of the story. FIFA's referees, Chief Pierluigi Collina, came out and defended everything. And to his credit, he actually explained the mechanics. Under VAR protocol, officials can review the entire attacking possession phase. And they found a foul by Egypt's Marwan Attia on Lisandro Martinez in the build-up to Zico's goal. So the goal comes off. Fine. That's a real rule, correctly cited. Collina went further though, and this is the part that mattered. He said, and I'm quoting him directly, "Nobody can question the integrity of the FIFA World Cup match officials," and warned that these kinds of accusations could provoke threats against referees and their families. Which is true, and serious, and worth saying. But here's the thing about standing up and declaring that nobody can question the integrity of the tournament. You only have to give that speech when a whole lot of people already are. Nobody is saying the World Cup is fixed. So why does everyone feel like they have to keep insisting on it? Let me build you the pile, not the crazy pile. We'll get to the crazy pile. The reasonable pile first. The pile of things that, taken one at a time, are completely explainable, and taken together start to make that little voice in your head clear its throat. Item 1. The opening match against Algeria. The one where Messi scored a hat-trick and equaled the record for most World Cup goals in history. A genuinely beautiful thing. In the 32nd minute of that same match, Messi appeared to rake his studs down the back of Issa Mandy's leg. Polish referee Simon Marciniak, who may simply not have seen it, gave nothing. VAR looked and decided it wasn't worth a sending off. The pundits watching did not agree even slightly. Nedum Onuoha told ESPN, "It should have been a red card in my opinion." Alejandro Moreno went further. It's 100% a red card for Lionel Messi, so Messi stays on the pitch and completes the hat trick that ties a record. Now, is that a fix? No. Referees miss things. But file it. Item 2. And this one's about numbers, because I like numbers, and numbers don't have a favorite team. In that Algeria match, Argentina committed 13 fouls to Algeria's 8 and received 0 bookings. 0. Against Jordan, next match, Jordan picked up 3 yellows despite committing nearly half as many fouls, 7 to Argentina's 13. And again, Argentina walked away with nothing in the book. Of the 8 teams that reached the quarterfinals, Argentina picked up the second fewest bookings of anyone, 3 total, despite committing the 4th most fouls. Their fouls per card number is 19.7, meaning it takes them nearly 20 fouls to see a single yellow, a rate bettered at this tournament only by Norway. Meanwhile, England, under Thomas Tuchel, have the most cards of anyone, and average a booking every 6.8 fouls. Same tournament, same laws. One team apparently commits assault every 7 fouls, and the other has a diplomatic immunity clause. Nobody is saying the World Cup is fixed. I'm just reading you the spreadsheet. Item 3. After Argentina got a genuine scare from Cape Verde in the round of 32, FIFA President Gianni Infantino stopped to talk to Argentine television and said, out loud into a microphone, that he had suffered with them during the match. He then caught himself and clarified that he meant us, neutrals, who were rooting for both teams. Neutrals. The president of World Football's governing body, whose entire job is to be a neutral, felt the need to specify that he was in fact neutral, immediately after telling a national broadcaster how much he suffered on their behalf. That's not a fix. That's just a man who forgot which camera he was standing in front of. But it's a bad look, and bad looks are the whole ball game here. Item 4, and this is the one that broke the internet's brain. FIFA announced the officiating crew for France's quarterfinal against Morocco and named all 5 on-field officials from Argentina, every single one, for a match involving France. France, who are widely considered the single biggest obstacle standing between Messi and back-to-back World Cups. France, who have reached the last 2 finals. The announcement went up on X and pulled more than 32 million views, helped enormously by the fact that FIFA posted it at almost exactly the moment the disputed Argentina versus Egypt game was unfolding. You could not script the timing more perfectly if you were trying to make people suspicious. An entire officiating delegation from the country that half the planet thinks is being protected, appointed to the match of the country most likely to end their run. Nobody is saying the World Cup is fixed. FIFA is just apparently determined to make that sentence as hard as possible to say with a straight face. Item 5, and we have to go back before a single ball was kicked. The draw. Back in November, FIFA confirmed that the defending champions Argentina, Euro 2024 winners Spain plus France and England would be seeded and kept apart, unable to meet before the semi-finals if they won their groups. Argentina duly landed in a group they were expected to stroll, which in turn set up a comfortable-looking round of 32 tie against the likes of Uruguay, Saudi Arabia, or Cape Verde. Now, seeding is normal. Every tournament seeds. But the effect was that the powerhouses, France, Spain, England, Belgium, kept getting funneled into brutal knockout collisions with each other, while the defending champions appeared to glide down a noticeably softer slope. Supporters will tell you correctly that you can only beat the team in front of you, and that Argentina has beaten every team in front of it. That is a genuinely fair point, and I'm putting it on the record. But perception doesn't care about your fair point. And then there's the ghost hanging over all of it, which is Qatar. Because this didn't start in 2026. In their 2022 title run, Argentina were awarded 5 penalties, the most any single team has ever received in a World Cup. 5. Supporters said everyone was earned. Detractors said 5 is a number that requires an explanation. And more than a year after that final, Louis van Gaal, whose Netherlands side lost to Argentina in a spiteful quarterfinal on penalties, went on Dutch television and said of how the goals came and how certain Argentina players overstepped the mark and were not punished. That then, I think it was all premeditated. Asked directly whether he meant that Messi had to become world champion, Van Gaal answered, "I think so, yes." No evidence has ever emerged to support that. I want to be very clear about that. No evidence. It's the paranoia of a manager who lost a game he thought he should have won. But it stuck because it landed on soil that had already been fertilized. So that's the reasonable pile. Now the trust problem gets worse, because Argentina isn't even the only thing eating the tournament's credibility from the inside. Because in the middle of all this, FIFA managed to plunge the whole competition into a full-blown integrity crisis over an entirely different player. Folarin Balogun, the United States striker, got a straight red card in the round of 32 against Bosnia for a challenge on Tarik Muharemovic. A red card carries an automatic one-match ban. That is not a suggestion, it is written into the regulations. And then FIFA announced the ban was suspended, put on probation for a year under Article 27 of the Disciplinary Code, freeing Balogun to face Belgium. Why? FIFA has still never publicly explained the reasoning. What we do know is that President Donald Trump confirmed he had personally called Infantino to ask for a review, telling reporters, "I asked for a review because I did not think it was a foul," and calling the original decision horrible. FIFA insists the phone call played no part. Sure, here's why that one detonated. UEFA, an actual governing body, not a message board, said FIFA had crossed a red line, pointing out that the automatic suspension after a red card is not a discretionary option. Belgium's federation said it was astonished and demanded to know what rule had even been applied, and then the consistency argument arrived to finish the job. England's Jarell Quansah was sent off against Mexico for a studs-up challenge that a review deemed serious foul play, and FIFA handed him a 2-match ban that England said it could not even appeal. 2 similar-looking challenges, 2 red cards. One player gets a probationary reprieve after a call from the White House, the other gets doubled. Former FIFA referee Jonas Eriksson, 16 years in the middle, put it simply, fans want correct decisions, but more important always is consistency. Another former official, Keith Hackett, was blunter, writing that FIFA allowed outside interference by the president. When your own former referees are publicly unable to reconcile 2 of your rulings, the phrase, "nobody is saying the World Cup is fixed," starts to sound less like a fact and more like a plea. And it's not one bad night either. This tournament has been drowning in officiating storms since the opening game, when 3 red cards flew in Mexico's win over South Africa. A Somali referee, Omar Abdul Qadir Artan, was turned back at the US border 5 days before the tournament even started. Referee appointments have raised eyebrows across the board. Expand a World Cup to 48 teams, add all those matches, stretch a bigger pool of officials across higher and higher stakes, and you get exactly this: a refereeing corps under a kind of scrutiny it has never faced, in a country where the president will pick up the phone about a red card. Even the Wall Street Journal ran a piece essentially begging everyone to talk honestly about VAR, arguing that replay was supposed to stay narrow and instead only ever expands, turning the sport we love over to zero-tolerance killjoys with a magnifying glass. And they've got a point that goes way beyond Argentina. Every tournament we tell ourselves the technology will be used sparingly, only for the clear and obvious errors. And every tournament it creeps a little further, until a striker's shoulder is offside by the width of a shoelace, and a goal that made a stadium erupt gets erased by a graphic that looks like a physics homework assignment. That's not fairness. That's forensics. When the broadsheet business papers are writing that your review technology is ruining the entertainment, The trust isn't eroding, it's gone. Now, I promised you a water bottle, and I promised you 1978, so let me take you all the way down into the crazy pile, the historical basement where the paranoia was actually poured in the first place. Because this is the part that explains why people are so ready to believe the worst. In 1978, Argentina hosts the World Cup under a military dictatorship run by Jorge Rafael Videla. In a format where the second group stage decided the finalists, Argentina go into their last match needing to beat Peru by 4 clear goals to reach the final. They win 6-0. Immediately, unproven whispers of a fix. And those whispers got a lot louder in 2012, when a Peruvian senator, Genaro Ledesma, testified in a Buenos Aires court that a deal had been struck between Videla and Peru's then president, allegedly involving Peruvian dissidents shipped off to Argentine prisons, on the understanding, in his telling, that Videla needed the World Cup to clean up Argentina's image abroad. Unproven. But it's the kind of story that never fully washes out. Fast forward to 1990. Argentina, the defending champions, meet Brazil in the round of 16. During the match, Brazil's Branco drinks from a bottle handed to him by an Argentine physio, and afterwards says he felt dizzy. Caniggia scores the winner. Years later, Argentina's 1990 coach, Carlos Bilardo, was asked about the notorious spiked water bottle story, and he gave the single most damning non-denial in football history, saying, "I'm not saying it didn't happen." Brazil's federation said they would send a dossier to FIFA. As far as anyone knows, FIFA did nothing. So here's a country that, fairly or not, has a genuine paper trail of "we're not saying it didn't happen" stretching back nearly 50 years. And that is why, when a goal comes off the board in Atlanta in 2026, the reaction is not tough call. The reaction is here we go again. Now let me do the thing I always do before I let a take land, because you deserve the other side and Argentina deserves it more. Take all of this seriously and be honest. There is no evidence, none, that this World Cup is fixed. Not the Egypt game, not the Balogun mess, not the draw, not the all-Argentine crew, not one bit of it. Kalina explained the Zico decision by the actual rulebook, and it holds up. VAR reviewing the attacking phase is a real rule, not a favor. Refereeing is genuinely, brutally hard, and the same expansion that stretched the officials thin also handed us more matches, more angles, more slow motion, more chances to freeze a frame, and see a crime that a human at full speed never could. And here's the part nobody arguing about penalties wants to sit with. Argentina do not need any of this. Messi, Lautaro Martinez, Enzo Fernandez. This is a squad that beats anyone on earth on merit, that won in Qatar as the best team in the tournament, that has earned its place in 2026 through results and not through some smoky room. When your explanation for a Messi hat trick is a conspiracy, you might just be refusing to admit. You watched one of the greatest players who ever lived be great. That's the fair caveat. And it's real. So here's where it lands. The problem was never whether any single call was right.